to go live in 20 seconds, people. 20 seconds. The studio audience could just sit down, please. Thank you.
You need to get an applause background.
We should.
Then when nobody's listening to us, we can applaud for ourselves anyway.
Welcome to Lisa's Changing Perceptions with Lisa Efflandt. Lisa is the creator of Changing Perceptions. Through life experience, she has discovered that we all suffer internal wounds that guide us. We live in a society that puts a label and expectation on everything and everyone. So many are in constant battle with themselves, never winning the war or ever feeling good enough. Lisa's Changing Perceptions is a show that offers tools and guidance that will assist you in discovering you and unlocking the chains of pain that bind you. This morning, a little anxiety. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Kent. How are you?
I'm anxious about this show. I'm sorry. I had to go there.
That's all right. That's all right. I'm tired.
Yeah?
I was telling you before the show, I went to a junior high school get-together. Because in my life experience, junior high was the best school years of my life.
You loved it.
Oh my gosh, we had the best junior high.
Yeah.
And anybody that went to junior high with us will say the same thing. Like junior high was the best. There was no, I mean, there were the little groups,
Yeah,
you know,
your
but
cliques.
everybody got along.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everybody got along.
What years, can I ask?
I graduated 8th grade in 82.
So back in the 1900s.
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah.
My self-esteem just grew 10 feet tall.
Yeah, so 8th grade, 82. So that means you graduated high school
86.
86.
Yes,
So you're
if
just
you had 4 to that,
Yeah,
Mr. Banker.
Yeah. You're a couple years ahead of me. So 84 would have been when I got out of the 8th grade. So I graduated in 88. And you're right, it was. You had your hoods, your jocks,
blast.
your geeks, your nerds, your preppies.
And everybody got along.
And everybody got along.
It was so fun. So we got together, and this is funny because my roommate was making fun of this. I didn't get home till 1 a.m. Friday night, and I'm still tired from it because my roommate was like, and then my brain still woke up at 6.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So I was really traumatized by that. Yeah. And my roommate's laughing because she laughs at the meme that says, "I still party like a rock star. I say to myself at 9 p.m. when I'm in bed." Exactly.
Well, funny.
She's like, "This is so you." She
So,
goes, and you're asleep and snoring at 9:05, like that.
Yeah. So literally same thing. But I've got 2 puppies that wake me up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning. Right. So last night I'm sitting on the couch and I'm just exhausted. So I'm starting to fall asleep. It's like 8:30 because it gets dark at 2 in the afternoon now.
Right.
So I go to bed at 9. My wife's like, "You feeling okay?" I said, "I'm exhausted." I went to bed. I slept for 8 hours.
I did not really recover, and I slept like crap.
Yeah.
Last night too, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I did not recover, and I have to be somewhere this afternoon at an event where I look alert and aware and knowledgeable. So
That's
I'll be
the
fine.
large cup of coffee.
Yes, that would be the giant coffee and the 3 I had prior to coming here. Yes, that would be it. And I didn't have any Death Wish coffee, so I'm like, okay.
Oh, that gives me the shakes.
I'll just have to overlap. I'll have one only on the days like this. Like if I would have had some, I would have had one. Right. Only on the days like this, like Lisa, get your mojo going.
Good morning, Shayna. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Shayna. So today we're going to talk about anxiety, but we'll get all the other stuff out of the way. I'm Lisa with Lisa's Changing Perceptions. I am a self-empowerment coach. I explain, people ask me regularly, why don't you call yourself a life coach? Life coach is the thing to be now. Oh. My response to that is, enjoy being a life coach. That's just fine. I don't feel I can coach you on your life. I didn't live it, but I can empower you with tools to help you determine what you could change and what you choose to change in your life. So I call myself a self-empowerment coach, but I also do have a diploma in hypnotherapy. I have a certification, a specialty certification in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. We're going to start covering that more on the show now.
That's what I love.
And I have other certifications that in truth, I don't even remember a lot of them anymore. when I went back to school, I kind of got overly excited and took everything. So therapeutic journaling is one of them, and I haven't covered them on the show yet. So we're going to do therapeutic journaling at some point. It's not like the journaling where you sit with a blank page and have to just write. It's actually it's a pre-done thing. We're going to cover that on one of the shows. But anyway, I do have those available. I do not believe that I am here to change you or fix you. I tell people I cannot put my thumb on your forehead and make everything go away. And if I could, I'd have a much nicer house and a much nicer car. And I would be in competition with Bezos. That would just be the way it is, because people would be lined up out the door with everything they have to make it go away.
The decimal points would move.
Correct. Correct. And I am also an intuitive medium, which I do include in the sessions. Like that's part of it.
I love that too.
Certain terminologies will pop in or things will pop in. So that's where we're at. But today we're going to talk about, I forgot how to tell them how to get a hold of me. See how tired I am? But
Shayna says you look good. So there's
Thank you, Shayna. See, that goes with our funny story from Friday night, but we're going to save that for the grounds. You can reach me at lisaschangingperceptions.com, lisaschangingperceptions@gmail. You can find me on Facebook under Lisa Changing Perceptions, or you can call or text me at 262-573-7055. For those of you who think you might have a friend or family member that may enjoy a session or a reading, or you may want to introduce them to this, I am offering gift certificates. So I do have gift certificates, and they're actually really pretty, but they're a physical gift certificate that I can send out to you. So if you prefer to get a gift certificate for somebody for Christmas, what better gift than the gift of mental health and peace?
Yeah, that's awesome.
For the holidays. The candy is going to cause more trauma. Let's just bring in the mental health and peace. So gift certificates are available. And I have just ordered a new shipment of my books. So I'm going to be talking about my book at some point on the show here. And the pre to that is, and it's funny because I haven't talked about it for so long, is that my book is actually written after a week that I had taken oxycodone excessively unaware. And I was suicidal at the end of the week. And I did not develop an addiction, thank God.
Right.
Literally for me, thank God, because I was stopped. But we're going to be talking a little bit more about that. And in my understanding of addiction and how addiction takes place and how it occurs. Yeah. And that was a reality check. And I tell people a lot of times, I do believe that because of what I do and because of my connection to spirit, that a lot of my life experiences that are traumatic or a struggle are meant for just that purpose, to go, okay, now we're going to shed light on this. So now when somebody comes in, you have an understanding of this. Yeah. A true, not but a true, like, I get it. I feel you in my heart and soul. So we're going to talk about that. So I did just ordered a shipment of them. They're supposed to be here by the end of the month. Next Sunday, Julie, who's been on the show before and everybody loved, Julie's going to be on with me. She's going to be coming once a month, and we're going to do a show together that's going to be called All About Grace. And we're going to talk about real life bullshit, real life traumas, family struggles, whatever it is. When Julie's on the air, it's truly just heartfelt truth that kind of comes out, and we talk about things we've overcome, things we're trying to overcome. So Julie will be with us next week on All About Grace. So we will talk about that. I'm very excited for her to come, as I know a lot of listeners are. Mm-hmm. So to the topic today, before I babble my
anxiety.
Yeah.
Now here's a word that gets used, kicked around.
Kind of like narcissist. Like just because you're having an asshole day, all of a sudden you're a narcissist, Right.
Or
anxiety is, I refer to it as society's acceptable misery.
Say that again.
Society's accepted misery.
Okay.
Because now it's very easy to say, oh, I can't do that. I have anxiety. I have anxiety. I have anxiety.
It's a huge excuse now for everything.
Couple things we're going to cover. Anxiety is real. For anybody who has genuine anxiety, it is real. I have felt it. I've experienced it. But there's a difference between anxiety and anxious. Mm-hmm. Being anxious is a discomfort, a fear. It's a discomfort to do something. I have anxiety. Like, it's funny because Friday night I had the junior high get together thing and I got there early. And people who knew me, because I knew the place that it was at, I knew people there already. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I have people coming. Well, I was really early. And they're like, are your friends really coming? I'm like, I really have friends and they're really coming. But I show up everywhere a little bit early because I am very uncomfortable walking into a crowd. I think it's the empath part, like walking into all that energy at once. I want the gradual buildup. So I tend to, when I can, the best I can, show up early. And if I am running late, it causes me to be anxious. That is not anxiety. It causes me to be
Yeah.
anxious. It causes me to be uncomfortable with the fact that I'm going to end up showing up late, and I know I'm going to face that uncomfortable feeling that I get when I walk in.
Right. So what's the
Causes me to
difference
be-
between that and nervous? Or is that the same thing?
Same thing, similar,
Okay.
similar. Anxious, nervous would be the same thing.
Mhm.
It's the level of discomfort or the feeling of discomfort that you get. Nervous to me is more of a, how's it going to go? What's going to happen? That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Anxious is I know what's going to happen when I approach and I don't want it.
Gotcha. Okay.
I know that when I walk into a crowd, because of the empath part of me, I'm slammed with energy.
Yeah.
Where I know if I show up early and a person shows, and then there's a build up, and I can allow that to kind of balance out.
So nervousness, then it would be like if you're preparing to play a sporting event or something.
Yes. Nervousness would borderline to me with fear.
Okay.
So I'm afraid of what's going to happen. I'm afraid I can't control what's going to happen. I'm afraid, that's a nervousness, and that's a physical aspect. That's a Anxious isn't really physical.
Get a little sweaty.
Anxious is emotional. Anxious is a mental game.
Okay.
Nervous is physical. Your palms sweat. Now, anxiety is also physical. And that's where I think people struggle with it, and it's an easy throw around. Somebody who's truly having an anxiety attack, unless you've actually experienced it, the level of physical discomfort is unbearable at times. The descriptions I've gotten and I have felt is I'm going to crawl out of my skin. I just want to run. I'd rather die than feel this way. I mean, it's an excessive.
Right. So faster heart rate.
Yes, your heart rate goes up. Your breathing goes up. You're physically twitching. And we're going to cover why that happens. But you're physically twitching. And it is an unbearable physical feeling.
Right. And when we were kids, somebody would hand you a brown bag and say, breathe into this.
Right. And that's the interesting thing. And I'm working with somebody now that has trauma-induced PTSD, and they are having panic attacks, anxiety attacks over it. And it's funny. And I said, well, what are you being encouraged by the people around you to do? Because you have to know what the environment is, and they tell me just breathe. And I'm like, no, hold your breath. That's actually,
really?
Yes. During an anxiety attack, you hold your breath. And
good morning, Denise.
Because here's the reason: you go and hold it. Now, anxiety is physical, but your unconscious mind is triggering it. It's telling your body what to do. And we're going to cover that a little bit too. But it's telling your body what to do. But your unconscious mind's job is to keep you alive. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
That's your unconscious mind is to keep you alive. So if you hold your breath, what does your brain say? Holy crap. Life danger. There's no air. And you change the target of the mind. So you hold the breath. And then if you might have to exhale. Obviously,
sure. Please do.
Yeah. At some point do exhale. That's always good. My
thoughts
kid
and
held their
opinions.
breath to death on Sue Lisa. Yeah,
right.
No, at some point exhale. And then if you have to hold your breath again, do it. But to continually do that, you're putting your unconscious mind almost into thinking there is a possible fight or flight because there's a danger to the core. Yeah. Your breathing is a core need. You can't live without breathing. So by holding your breath, you're changing the signal to go, wait. There's something a bigger priority right now because it's a life threat.
And it's different than a fear, right? So like I do, for whatever reason, in some previous life, I must have been trapped someplace because I'm claustrophobic.
Oh yeah,
I wasn't when I was a kid. Shove me in something, right? But now, because I was so small, but now I can't even get into an MRI machine without freaking out, right? And I'm just scared.
I bet that if we went down into a deep kind of relaxed state, at some point when you were little and you weren't afraid of it, something traumatic happened, and then your brain decided this was now dangerous.
Oh. Interesting.
That would be my guess on that one.
Could be.
Digging into your brain could be a scary thing.
That'd be fun though. I would love it.
But it's a physical response, and your head says, "Wait, there's a priority here," because your unconscious mind's sole purpose truly is to keep you alive and as happy as possible. But alive is your priority, because if you're dead, well, the rest of it doesn't matter, right? So hold your breath. And then once you've gotten to the point that you're starting to feel it, and you will physically feel it, calm down. Then you regulate your breathing calmly. 5 in, 5 out, counting evenly paced, and it will have to be concentrated. People are
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I tried that, and I have to force it." Well, yep,
Mhm.
because you're retraining your body what to do. But what happens when you do that 5 in, 5 out, and 5 is not some magic number, it's the pace per minute that we get to. But the breathing rate and the heart rate begin to come together, and it's called coherence.
Okay.
And when you're in coherence, you'll literally, when I can get people into coherence in the office, you'll literally see their shoulders drop,
Yeah.
their hands unbind,
Or a
and they'll
change.
relax.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden their brain says, oh, look at the body's in balance.
Right. And
The body's calm.
my problem with anxiety is it's a huge excuse today for everything.
And
Oh,
that's
don't-
where I wanted to define the difference
Yeah.
between anxious and anxiety.
Yeah.
Somebody who, if you've ever seen someone who's genuinely experienced a true anxiety attack, it cannot be faked. You can see it in them. It is not something that can be faked, and it is not something I would wish on anyone. It's a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
But there is a difference between anxious and anxiety. And yes, people say, oh, that makes me uncomfortable, or that makes me anxious. That gives me anxiety, so I don't want to do it. Maybe it does. Maybe it's real. Who am I to judge? But that's part of the self-responsibility that we have in society that we don't, Gene. I don't like that person. They cause me anxiety.
Mhm.
Okay. They may do something that triggers you and makes you feel anxious. But your body's causing the anxiety, not them.
Right.
Your unconscious is causing that anxiety, not that person. And here's the thing. Oh my God, every time I'm around them, they do this and it sets off my anxiety. First question, are they aware of it? Because if they are and they keep doing it, why are you around them?
Mhm.
If somebody has no respect for something that makes you that uncomfortable, why are you there? Get out. You know. But to be uncomfortable, it depends on how you want to look at it. To be uncomfortable could be your spirit, your heart, your whatever words you want to use for it. It's a way of saying, hey, there's something to look at here.
Yeah.
There's something going on. You know, and people so afraid of emotions. This is a talk I have with people all the time. They're so afraid of emotions. And I'm like, but here's the thing, you're not afraid of an emotion. An emotion doesn't cause anything. It's just an emotion. You're not afraid of a trauma that happened in the past. It already happened.
Yeah.
You already survived it. And you're not afraid of an emotion, because I can list all the emotions. You're going to run? No. But when you get to how that emotion makes you feel, then it's, whoa.
Yeah.
I don't make part of it, because the physical sensation is something that's undesired.
So, folks, you're listening to Lisa's Changing Perceptions here at 216 The Net. We just put out there, if you have questions about anxiety or what we're talking about today, feel free to put them in the comment section if you're out there.
Or call
on
into my
social media.
cell if you want to.
And that cell number is?
262-573-7055.
Or copy and paste the link into your URL, and join the show. We'd love to have you on. And so and one of the reasons that we're talking about this is we're about a week and a half away from
Thanksgiving,
which is a pretty horrible. Well, we're going into the period of the year that has, number one, the most suicide.
Right.
The people are messed up the most. You're going back to visit your dysfunctional family or whatever, right?
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of that, right?
Well, and financial pressure, because society's deemed what Christmas presents are and what gifts are. And
we pulled into Walmart and they have a sign, Black Friday pickup over here, and I'm like, it's not even. we
haven't even like plucked the turkey yet.
Yeah, I know.
Well, seriously,
It's still frozen.
There was that meme the other day on Facebook, and then it was funny because it said, snow came in November this year because of all of you that decorated for Christmas already. Stop it.
Stop it. Right.
Stop it. We're not there yet.
Right. Pete.
But anxiety is a physical response to the body. And
Right.
so we can learn to control our physical response.
Okay.
One of the things people don't know how to do, and it's so funny because we all do it, people don't know how to breathe. When we breathe, we should be breathing into our diaphragm. We should be filling our lungs and into our diaphragm. Now, is that a standard way we're going to breathe every moment of every day? Probably not, because when you're at a fast pace or when you're nervous, your rates and stuff do change. But when you want to pull yourself back in, you breathe into that diaphragm. Your stomach should be moving. Your stomach should be coming in and out. I tell people, see that happen. See your chest expand and contract. See your abdomen and see those, and focus in. And the reason for that is again, you're refocusing to another area of the body. But when you get enough oxygen, which is a life source, your brain starts to relax because it's no longer needed.
Sure.
It's no longer. So we don't breathe. And people, I get this question all the time, and it's so funny. How often should I breathe? Okay, well, first off, breathe all the time.
Right. Please.
But as far as concentrated, focused breathing, whenever you think of it, if you're at your desk and you're having a rough day at work and you're all of a sudden going, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. I'm losing it. You know, because it happens. We get overwhelmed. Stop, sit back, and pull yourself back together.
Right.
I mean, I don't have time for that. That's fine. But I promise you this. I will make this promise. If you can learn to rebalance yourself when you feel that way, it will get down to where within minutes you can pull yourself, because you're training your brain how to respond. You're teaching your brain what to do. And when you can pull yourself back in within a couple minutes, you will accomplish 10 times more once you've done that. Yeah. Because you're now focused. You're not scattered.
Right.
You can focus on it, push it, focus, push it. You're not all of a sudden panicking. Because how many times do we get into a nervousness, a panic or whatever, and we get anxious? Anxious. Okay, not anxiety.
Right.
But anxious. And then all of a sudden, what are we thinking about? The fact that we're anxious. And you're still not accomplishing squat. Yeah. You're thinking about the fact that you're anxious. Stopping and breathing. Breathing is the number one thing. And even, it's funny because I do have a diploma in hypnotherapy, and I learned certain techniques to put people under hypnosis. And I've altered those to my own personal style now, because I have learned that breathing and teaching someone how to breathe will relax them faster than half of the techniques I was trained in.
Yeah.
Because people don't know how to breathe. And all of a sudden, when their body feels that relaxation, when their body feels that coherence come back, all of a sudden they're going out. Why? Because our minds stay in a anxious state all the time now. Yeah. That's what society deems. Because if you're not working enough on your job, if you're not the first person to get that done, if you don't get home on time and dinner's not done, and if the house isn't cleaned up enough, and if it blah, 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 we live in a constant state of chaos in our society now. So pulling back, and as soon as your body gets the permission, that's the other word, the permission to be calm,
all right,
it will start to respond. But we have to give it permission, because we don't. If we're sitting here going, I'm going to breathe, I'm going to do that breathing that Lisa said, but I know I have too much to do anyway, and I really shouldn't be taking time to do it. Yeah, it's not going to work. Don't blame me. Right. That's not my fault.
Right. So anxiety, right? So you can have anxiety over public speaking, we could say, yes? You could create that anxiety.
You could have an anxiety attack while public speaking.
Okay.
Or when feeling the pressure of it would make you anxious. See, because you'd have to have a physical response. You'd have to be put in a situation that caused a physical response, or your mind be able to envision that and imagine that to the degree that you're doing it.
Right. So the anxiety is really created then by the fear of something that I don't know yet.
Well, or the remembering of a trauma.
Okay.
Or because, and that's the thing, is people say, well, I don't know, why would I have anxiety about public speaking if I've never spoken in public before? Well, but it might not be that. You don't know what your trigger is. And that's where people are individual. Okay. When you were little, did you have to stand up and read your report or read an answer to a question and you fumbled it?
And people laughed.
Right.
Whatever. Yeah. Right.
So that's where it goes down into the, what is the root cause? Where did it come from? And that's where it needs to be individualized. Because I've had people ask, will you do groups about anxiety? Sure. And I can do tools, but I can't find your root cause in a group.
Sure.
Because we need to figure out, where did it go? And oftentimes you don't remember.
Sure.
But it's the moment in time that you made a decision that was the response.
Okay, so help me understand, and I know you're not a physician.
Correct. I am not a physician or a licensed counselor.
So help me understand then. I'm anxious, right? Or have anxiety.
Right.
Air quotes, right?
Right.
And I go to my doctor, my PhD, my family doctor. And why then are medications prescribed?
Because the majority of them aren't trained in the unconscious mind. And medication's a quick fix. And I blame that on society.
So
we live in what I refer to as a McDonald's society. I want it quick. I want it now.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to work hard for it. And I don't care if it's good for me, because nobody wants to do the process. A silly example, but that makes the point is, let's pretend that Subway's healthy. Okay, so let's just, because we're talking.
Jared, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So it would be healthier to go into Subway and get a sandwich with vegetables and things on it, right? That's made fresh. Okay, we're pretending right now. But that would also take longer, and it would cost a little more. And I don't want to have to get out of my car and go in there and stand there and wait and tell them what to do, when this is just right there for me on the board. I just pick a damn number.
That's it. Number 5.
This is fast. I never get out of my car.
Yeah.
Right? And it used to be cheap. We're not going to call it that anymore, but it's fast. I can just pick a number. I don't have to get out of my car. It serves its purpose, and I go.
Yeah.
I want it quick. Is it good for you? No. No, it's not. But you made that choice. And to me, I am not saying that medication is not necessary in some instances. No. There are true chemical, there's synapses in your brain, and they can become dislodged.
Yeah.
And that will cause a misfire or a chemical imbalance.
Okay.
And that is something that medication can help with. But here's the thing. While the medication is helping that synapses to get calm, and why that medication is helping with the misfiring, you still have to look for the root cause, or else you're never going to get off the medicine.
Right.
That's the bottom line. The cause is still there, but the cause can create a misfire, and then that causes a discomfort. My daughter had anxiety real bad when she was little, and that's when I started to learn about it. She was about 9, and they told me she wasn't old enough to have anxiety, which I found interesting. And back then it wasn't the thing.
Sure.
She's 26 now. So back then it wasn't the thing. And I went to doctors, and they gave me diagnoses of abdominal migraine, all this. What the hell are you talking? When they gave me abdominal migraines, I said, you just put something down on the frickin' paper so that you could pretend you knew.
Right.
Like, what the hell is that? That's the stupidest crap I've ever heard.
Right.
Her stomach was being affected, but that's the physical response to the anxiety. So I ended up, truthfully, I've told the story before. I went into the doctor's office, and I made an appointment for anxiety and depression for me. And then they brought in, and they bring you a chart and a checklist to fill out. And I didn't put my name on it. And I filled it out based on what I was observing happening to her. And he walked into the room, and he said, this is classic of anxiety, depression. I said, good. Now go get my daughter's freaking file right now.
Yeah.
And get me a referral to somebody who has a freaking clue. Because this is not happening. This is not happening. And he said, well, she's too young for that.
You just said.
Right. Right. Let's go there. And I actually said, I will either leave here with a referral or in handcuffs. Those are the two options. And those of you who know me know, I meant that.
Not the furry kind of handcuffs.
Right. Not the kind Ken had.
Yeah.
And I sat there in that office, and they came in and said, we're closing. I said, good for you.
Fair enough.
I'm not going.
Yeah.
Do I have a referral? Well, the doctor said he won't do that. Do I have cuffs? Well, no. Well, I'm still here then, huh? And I, just for the record, for those of you curious at the end of the story, I got the referral. I did not get arrested. But it was the principle. Why should I have to fight so hard to do that? And people didn't understand it. And she was immense. That's what I truly, that's what I tell people. There's a difference between anxious and anxiety. She all of a sudden became horrified to leave the house, where she had been incredibly outgoing. At 2-3 years old, she was doing sleepovers without tears. I mean, she was just an outgoing kid. And within a 2-week span, all of a sudden something snapped. Something changed. And of course, me being a mom assumed she had been molested. That was the only thing I could think of that would cause that dramatic personality change. And doing some research and figuring it out, I realized, no, something's happened. And it was a true chemical imbalance that was caused. The synapses had been affected. Okay. So, and that's a genetic thing in our family. So, I took her in, and I did put her on medication. And she was on medication for 5 years.
Yeah.
But during those 5 years, she was also in cognitive behavioral therapy. And she was dealing with it and figuring it out and learning how to cope with it. So why was she able to wean herself off the medicine? Because she was discovering what was causing the issues. Now at 26, she does still have anxiety, but she has managed anxiety. She will have anxiety attacks on occasion, but she's very aware of her triggers to know I need to prep for something.
Sure.
That's something that triggers me. So I'm going to prepare myself. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to eat right. And foods is something we're going to talk about in a minute that has to do with anxiety. And she gets herself ready for that. And she's just very aware. This is how my body responds to this. And I'm aware of how my body responds to this. And I know that I need to breathe, and I know that I need to eat right. And I know that I need to rest. Or in truth, in some situations, I know I need to avoid that situation because I'm not in the state to deal with it. But she's responsible for her anxiety. And I will tell you that it's my belief and tough love, because it happened to me. When it first started and she had developed this so severely, she also germophobia. I mean, agoraphobia. It was a snap. You have no idea. She was beating her head into the wall, wishing she was dead. I mean, it was a drastic snap in personality. And I would watch. I forgot. Lost my train of thought. I would watch her and I would see what was going on with her, and it almost appeared like she was having like a seizure kind of thing, and she wouldn't always remember. And I started to just really pay attention to what she was doing, and that's when I learned that physicians are trained in your physical pain, your physical ailment. And although anxiety is a physical response in the body, it starts in the mind. It starts in the unconscious mind. And that's why the quick fix of medicine. Now, again, I put her on medicine, but she needed that.
Right.
So I'm not against medication.
Correct. That's,
But it was while she's on the medicine, helping her with that, let's go and solve the problem. Let's go. And did we 100% solve it? No. Are there other things she could do to probably make it even better? Probably. But she chooses that she's comfortable at this time with how she manages it. Right. So I back off and leave her be.
Folks, you're listening to Lisa's Changing Perceptions here, 21.6 The Net. Of course, if you are dealing with anxiety and or the coming of the holidays and you feel a little uncomfortable or anxious, feel free to reach out to Lisa at 262-573-7055 or lisaschangingperceptions.com, where she can absolutely talk with you, work with you, and do what she does the best, which is help people change their perceptions.
Hope so.
Yeah.
Give people the tools to anyway. I know what I was going to explain, but the tough love. My daughter, my younger daughter, not the one who was struggling with this, had the flu and threw up in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And my oldest daughter, one of her fears that had developed in all this was vomit. She still is to this day. If you even talk about it, she'll.
Yeah, I
don't talk about it.
I'm a dad. I can't deal with it either.
But here's the difference between that's just a thing you don't like and it makes you uncomfortable versus a true fear. She would not use that bathroom for a year. She kept going into the master bathroom in our room. It was a true terrifying fear that if I go in that room, I will get those germs. And then if I get those germs, I may vomit. Yeah. And that was a true fear. And so she didn't want to use our dishes because when her sister was sick, she didn't matter that they were washed. She wasn't going to use those. So I was a mom. I didn't know. And I went out and bought paper plates and plastic spoons and paper, like, oh my God, whatever she needs. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm calling all over looking for doctors. And I end up talking to this doctor who was 3 hours away that did group sessions with adolescents, which was uncommon back then. I'm like, I'll drive her up there. I'll drive her up there for group every day. 3 hours each way. I don't care. Somebody's got to help her. Yep. And he said, tell me what's going on. So I told him, and I'm like, oh my God. And I bought her paper plates and plastic cups and all this stuff. And he goes, wow, you really love your daughter. I said, I do. This is killing me. He said, I see you love her. Look at her. Look at you making her so comfortable with all of her issues. And I said, yeah. And he said, so are you happy your daughter will live with you forever now? And I said, what? No, I'm raising my children to be adults who can go out in the world and live their own lives. He said, are you? Because the rest of the world doesn't give a shit what her problem is. The rest of the world doesn't give a shit what she's afraid of. Wow. So are you going to teach her to deal with her own issues in the world, or are you going to expect the world to change for her issues? Damn it. And it was a reality.
Yeah.
And I was mad at first because we're triggered. Now we're on the defensive. Now we're a bad mom. You know what I mean? Like it's triggering everything in you in the moment. And the sad part is I don't even remember this doctor's name. And I hung up the phone and I went in the bedroom and I cried for hours. And I was mad at him because it was easier to be mad at him.
Right.
It was easier to think he
How
was an
dare you.
asshole for saying such a horrible thing to me when I'm hurt, rather than realizing it was the most incredible blessing of any doctor, any person I had talked to. And I don't even remember his name.
Right.
And it was the greatest gift he could have ever handed me.
It's an angel.
Yes. Because he went, okay, you're spinning. You're a mom who's afraid. And, a mom whose kid's hurting, you don't get
stop
much
the
more
world.
mama
Right.
bear than that,
Right.
And it's kind of like slapping the person in hysteria. You know what I mean? Like, it's to get their attention and draw their attention back to where they're at. It's not to be mean. It's to draw their attention back to where they are in the moment. Stop this hysteria. And I to this day, without even knowing his name, I truly believe, he was an angel who got sent down and said, okay, you're in hysteria and you're spinning, and you need to stop and get a reality check. And it was the greatest gift. And that goes for anything. And that's part of my thing, is that I genuinely am sorry for people who have experienced trauma. I have experienced much trauma. Like I said, I've lost a husband, I've lost a child, I'm a rape victim. I've had a lot of trauma. And others made choices and decisions that caused my traumas. But no one else is responsible for the recovery of my traumas but me.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
So as we're going into the most stressful time of the year for many, many people, and I know, hey, here we're going into Thanksgiving. I'm going to be with, the in-laws or the outlaws or whatever, cousins, sisters-in-laws, brother-in-laws, and I'm building up anxiety over this. How do you?
Are you building up anxiety? It would be the question would be, why am I feeling anxiety about it?
Okay.
Why am I feeling anxious about it? Because the odds are you're causing your own anxiety. Are you already predetermining that Uncle Joe's going to be an idiot and embarrass you at dinner? Are you already predetermining that so-and-so is going to say such and such to you? Are you still mad at your sibling for something they said 20 years ago, and every year you're still bitter because you still haven't gotten the apology you feel you deserve? What is your thought process as you're going? Because here's the reality of that. You're empowering the people you claim are the predators. You're empowering that by saying, before I even get there, I'm going to allow you to ruin my holiday. Okay. Then there's the other side of the coin. I'll show them.
Right.
So you're predetermining that you will be this year's asshole. That is what you're doing. And what you're doing is saying, I'll go down to their level and show them what it's like. In that case, you have a right to do that. Feel free. But you're empowering them, and now you can no longer complain about them. And that's something that our society doesn't get either. Eye for an eye, I get it. When I thought my daughter had been molested, you have no idea.
That's right.
Bring it. There were bats involved and all kinds of things in my mind, But in the moment that we make those decisions, we are choosing to become the predator and no longer the victim. So when you choose to go down to another person's level to show them,
right?
Trust me, most of them already know. You don't need to show them anything. And what you're showing them is how incredibly friggin' important they are, that they possess that much rent.
That much mind space, right?
So anxiety for the holidays. And true, is that anxiety, or are you anxious? That depends on the person.
Sure.
If you're just anxious about going because such and such always happens. I don't know. Are you laughing and it's a family holiday? Truthfully, I haven't gone to family holidays for years. My family and I do love my family, and that's another misconception. But I don't see the world the same way, and I don't enjoy myself, and I don't feel comfortable to be who I am. So I just choose not to go.
Yeah.
It's not a love-hate thing. It's just because somebody's DNA doesn't mean there's something that's encouraging or positive in your life.
Right.
And I can handle being in an uncomfortable situation. I put myself in them all the time.
Well,
But
and I think you have
it's
to
a choice.
you have to mentally prepare yourself. I mean, my family is the Griswolds, right? I mean, yeah,
Wow, I'm
and
surprised, Kent.
yeah, and now that all the nieces, nephews, and kids are grown, it's the Griswolds with every microbrew. I mean, literally, my parents make money because they live in Iowa for all the 5 cents that they get to take back when everybody leaves, right?
Right.
Um, and then my wife's family are the Waltons. I mean, absolutely love them, but it's and where my family, I
There's a
know.
hierarchy and there's the whole thing. Right.
Right.
Okay.
So in my family, I know, hey, we're just going to sit around and enjoy each other. We don't have to be running, doing something.
Right.
Right.
Catering to somebody. Right.
Right. Where with hey Jen, how are you this morning? With my wife's family, and absolutely love them. The dynamic's different though. We got to be running and doing something. We can't just sit and enjoy each other. So I understand that, and I know, okay,
But I'm here.
Go.
This is how it will be.
Right.
And you mentally prepare yourself for that and accept it to be what it is.
Right.
And then you make the choice to go.
Right.
If a family function truly causes you genuine anxiety and panic attack, why the hell are you going?
Yeah, I mean,
and then go face why does it do that, and who in my family, and whose view do I take? You know what I mean? Then we get into all the nitty gritty of the root thing. So why the hell are you going? Because what society said you have to.
Right.
Why? Why? So it's still a choice.
Right.
And if it makes you anxious, there's questions you can ask yourself. What is making me anxious?
Yeah.
And just be honest with yourself about that. What it is, even if it's stupid and irrational, it doesn't matter. If it's causing you to be anxious, then it's real to you. And then you can analyze and kind of do that. Here's another thing people don't realize that makes it worse on Thanksgiving. Anxiety can be felt because of the way we eat.
Right.
So what happens is, people with anxiety, like there's some clients that have anxiety and they get anxious, so then they don't want to eat because they don't feel right. Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that I recommend that they try doing, and I tell everybody, try it for at least 2 to 3 weeks before you do, it didn't work. It's not going to work in an hour. We did not get screwed up in an hour. We're not going to get fixed in an hour, but this will help, is to eat protein every 2 to 3 hours. Now that doesn't mean a meal, but make yourself some baggies, whether it be almonds,
bacon,
some turkey meat,
bacon,
cheese. Okay.
If
bacon makes you happy.
Bacon makes everybody happy.
Trail mix, some kind of trail mix or whatever, but make little baggies of it. And every 2 to 3 hours, even if it's a handful of almonds,
some tofu for those vegetarians,
a dozen almonds, whatever.
Right.
And eat that. And what happens is that it keeps your blood sugar regulated. Okay. So what happens with people is that we get busy in life. Okay. And people with anxiety need to really be aware of this. We get busy in life, and then most people are carb eaters when they're stressed, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you eat a bunch of carbs because, oh my God, now I'm starving. Because how many times have we done that? Like it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, haven't eaten anything. Now I'm absolutely starving. So I'm going to go for the fastest, easiest fix that's now pleasurable because I'm uncomfortable.
Yep.
Right. So what happens is that your glucose spikes, okay? And it goes real high. That's a whole bunch at one time, right? So then your pancreas says, oh my God, I have to bring some insulin. The glucose is too high. Because your mind says, stranger danger, blood sugar alert.
Right.
So now my mind that's made to protect me is going to tell my body what to do. And it's going to send the insulin, right? So it's going to come up and it's going to send, we're going to give an obnoxious number like 400. So then it says, oh my God, I have to bring that down. I have to bring that down to normal. So it's going to come and send enough insulin to bring that 400 down, right? But a carb burns fast. Protein burns slow. So it comes in. Now your body does not know technically that if you ate an entire French silk pie,
right,
or if you had a Thanksgiving meal, a balanced,
right, just feels full,
right? So it sends enough for the number. Well, sugar, carbs, burns real fast. So now it's sending enough for that, and it goes and plummets. Now we're in hypoglycemia. Now our sugar's too low. When it goes too low, what does your brain say? Stranger danger, blood sugar's too low. And it triggers fight or flight because now there's something really wrong. Okay. Fight or flight feels like an anxiety attack.
Anxiety attack.
See where they're similar?
Right. Interesting.
Because if somebody's got a gun to somebody, you're going to feel
Fight or flight,
anxiety
right.
because your fight or flight mechanism is now being triggered.
Yeah.
There's the difference. Anxious, anxiety. Anxiety is when your fight or flight mechanism has been triggered.
Mm-hmm.
It's a true fear of some sort that your life is in danger based on this situation.
Interesting. And hang on to that thought. Denise says, Lisa, don't forget to tell people you'll be offering your services in Lake Geneva today.
I did, but thank you.
Thank you.
I will be up in Lake Geneva. It's called the Space Lake Geneva.
Yep.
And they're going to have soul cycling, all kinds of stuff. I'm going to do a show on it, but yeah, they have all kinds of cool stuff up there.
Okay. So we're in fight or flight.
So then your blood sugar's low. So what do you go? Oh my God, my blood sugar's low. I have to eat.
Right.
And we're uncomfortable. And what do we tend to eat when we're uncomfortable?
Carbs.
More carbs.
Easy to have a Snickers.
Right. And we repeat the process, right? So your fight or flight mechanism is a muscle in your mind. It's a muscle in your brain. Okay. So my example I give to clients is if I say hold a pen in your hand, okay, and curl it. You're like, whatever. Now do it nonstop for 7 days. Eventually what happens? Your muscle gets tired.
Yeah.
That pen now weighs 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your muscle doesn't function properly. And even if you put the pen down, your arm is going to be not functioning properly because you've overdone the muscle. Okay. So when people are going into glucose plummet, you're constantly triggering that fight or flight missile. The same way fight or flight's a normal thing, right? But it's the same way of lifting the pen. So when you're doing this up and down, up and down, up and down, the fight or flight mechanism becomes tired.
Right.
And stays on. That's the people generally, and again, it's not 100%. I'm talking about the majority who say, I'm constantly feeling this sense. Even when nothing's wrong, I just feel this sense. Right. Now let's sit down and pay attention to what you eat, when you eat it, and your fight or flight mechanism is probably exhausted.
Sure.
Okay. So how do you get your fight or flight mechanism in that instance, that example, to rest? Taking the proteins every 2 to 3 hours, which burn slower and keep your sugar level normal, allowing that fight or flight to rest.
Yeah.
So once you've lifted that pen for the week, you can put it down, and if a day or two, you're probably going to rest your arm as a little sore, right? So in a few days, you're just going to be a little easier with that arm because it was sore. You're going to give it some nurture, right? Allow it to rest. And then you could pick up the pen again once you allowed it to rest. So you reset that fight or flight by allowing that muscle to rest. Is that all cases? No, like I said, but you'd be surprised how many people, even if it's not the root cause of their anxiety, it is exacerbating their anxiety horribly. So now we go back to Thanksgiving. What does everybody do on Thanksgiving? I'm not eating anything until the meal comes because I'm going to eat a ton. And then for a few hours before I go there, I'm going to think of all the horrible shit that might happen while I'm there. And I'm going to build myself to be even more anxious. And then I'm going to be starving, which is hypoglycemia. And now my fight or flight mechanism's getting triggered. And then I'm going to go sit down at the table with Uncle Bob, who every year does this. You're setting yourself up for disaster.
Yeah.
Snack from the time you get up until the time you go, every couple hours. You're not going to ruin your Thanksgiving meal. In truth, it's healthier for your body not to have to digest and course it anyway. And guess what? Thanksgiving has leftovers. You'll get to have some more later. But take every 2 to 3 hours. Keep yourself in balance. Don't allow yourself to get way down there plummeted and then start thinking about the anxiousness of the holiday. And now your fight or flight mechanism's triggered because you're starving and your brain doesn't know I'm waiting for Thanksgiving. Your unconscious mind, that's job is to keep you alive, doesn't pay attention to, but there's going to be a big meal coming. It only knows I'm starving.
Yeah.
So it's starting to trigger.
That's so interesting. I never put anxiety with fight or flight like that before, but it makes perfect sense to what you're saying is, as I just think about different situations or and why not? I mean, like you said, your
Right.
subconscious is like, I'm going to keep you alive.
Right.
You know,
And that's where biofeedback, that's another, I always
Mhm.
forget about that one, but I do have a certification in biofeedback. And part of the biofeedback is to teach people how their body's responding and where it's responding. So sometimes in the office, what we'll do is we'll get somebody into the breathing, we'll get them in the relaxed state, we'll get them in the coherence so that they're relaxed. And then I will intentionally bring up something that causes anxiety, something that makes them anxious.
Yeah.
Or I'll even have them talk to me about it. And what happens is that we take them from that calm state, and then I'll bring up, okay, let's just think about it, and they'll get, this is what's funny. People are like, I don't want you to bring up anxiety. Just the fact that I tell you I'm gonna is gonna start. Right? We're already triggering. Right. She's gonna make me do this, right?
Right.
So it comes up, but then I'll go, okay, now scan your toes to the top of your head. Tell me where the tension is. Tell me where the physical discomfort is. Because sometimes it is your whole body. It's literally a life or death response. But oftentimes, the majority of the time, I'll see somebody's feet start to twitch or legs tighten up, and you pay attention to where their body's physically responding. So somebody who sits and their feet start to move and bounce, because they don't even tell me what they're anxious about. I'll just tell them, bring it up. Come on, what makes you anxious? And I can bring it up without knowing what it is.
Right.
That's just the techniques of NLP. But I'll go, okay, your feet are bouncing. Your knee, I can see your legs bouncing. Is the situation that's making you uncomfortable something you want to run from? Do you have the desire to run away from it? Well, yeah. Right.
Okay,
your feet are running.
But now I'm a single mom.
Okay.
I feel this all coming on. I'm trying to, breathe and do that, but the kids are fighting over the Legos or whatever the case. And now so many of us are so busy though, Lisa, that just in everyday life that I can't take that time to take a deep breath.
That's a lack of self-respect.
Okay.
That's a lack of self-value. And it's true. And that's not an insulting comment. That's a genuine truth. I used to teach, I do guided meditation classes, and actually I will be doing those in Lake Geneva too. And I remember, it's usually moms that would come.
Mhm.
I mean, every now and then I get a man in there, but for the most part, it's moms that would come. And, I'd say, I knew my thing has always been, I take a bath, but I turn out the lights in the bathroom and I have candles lit. And sometimes I'll play megahertz music. And that's my 20 or 30 minutes of clear it out, And I would explain that in these classes, and people go, oh my God, I could never do that. My kids would never let me. They don't even let me go to the bathroom by myself.
Yeah.
Why are you allowing your children to disrespect you that way? Why are you teaching them that their needs come before everybody else's? Why would you do that? So you are able to do that. Your children don't bother you. And true story, I probably get nasty emails about this. My children knew if you're not bleeding or dying, you will be if you pound on that door. This is my 20 or 30 minutes. Right. And they knew. Now, they weren't toddler. Obviously, you can't leave alone a 2-year-old. I get it. But they were at an age where this was acceptable. And here's the thing. They knew that, but they also knew that when I got out of the tub and I got my pajamas on and I came out to watch a movie with them, I was with them.
Right.
I was there with them in the moment, and they had my full attention because I took the time I needed for me to want to be there. And I hear it all the time. Oh my God, well, I can't do that because, my kids. Okay, that's terrific. Children will do as you do, not as you say. So are you hoping that your children will grow up to be exhausted parents who hate parenting, who wish, and sometimes, and every parent, you can deny it all you want to, we've all felt it, that we wouldn't have made this choice. What the hell were we thinking? And who feel like their whole life is over-ended and they have no happiness. Well, of course not. I want my children to be happy. Then why are you giving them an example of no self-respect and no self-care? Self-care is important. And that self-care, that 20 or 30 minutes for me, that was my thing. Maybe you want to go for a walk, whatever your thing is, discover what your thing is. When I was with my children after that, then I was genuinely with my children.
Yeah.
Your physical presence in your children's lives is not parenting. Your physical presence in your children's life is not love. Just means you're physically there, and half the time because you feel obligated to, because if you left, you'd go to jail.
Yeah.
But to be present in your children's lives is what they need. And in order to be present in their lives, you have to be present within you. And if you don't have the self-value, the self-respect to do that for yourself, they will learn not to for themselves as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't teach them that someone else's time and balance and self-respect is important, does this seem familiar in society? They will
Right.
feel they are entitled to everyone else finding them the most important and how they feel the most important there.
Yep.
So the people who thought, oh my God, that's terrible, because my kids will tell you, I flat out said, if you're not bleeding or dying and you pound on that door, you will be when I get out.
Now, and that's the funny thing. Just yesterday I was doing yard work, and I was thinking about that, and the most special time to me is in the car, because we'd be going to practice, or I'm taking them to to school or whatever, and it's just that one-on-one, and we would talk about
and you're
things.
Present in the moment.
Yeah, we would talk about things, or maybe we'd just sit in silence or sing the songs on the radio, whatever. And those are the times I miss. I'm like, oh,
right,
man, as they're all grown.
And I will tell
old,
you
right?
that both of my daughters take time. My daughter with the anxiety that she has, she'll say, oh, it's my day off. I look so forward to taking my walk in the woods and bringing myself back to them. They both know I need a little me time.
Mm-hmm.
And here's
beautiful.
Here's the real beauty. They don't have guilt about needing their me time. Why? Because their big mean mom didn't let them bang on the door.
Right.
And it's similar to what that doctor said to me about coddling my daughter and thinking the rest of the world was going to treat her like I did and see her like I did. So that's the same thing when it comes to that. If you don't have the self discernment or the self value, the self respect to take time for yourself to be present, that is on you, not your children, and not your spouse. That is on you. And that's not even a criticism either, but it is a red flag to say, why don't I? What taught me, or what belief do I have that says everyone else comes first?
Yeah.
Because that's really what that says. Everyone else is more important than I am. Now, and this is funny because my girlfriend and I just had this conversation the other day. Julie actually is coming on next week, and she made a meme out of it with my thing on it. And I said, that tends to make people think that they're arrogant. We didn't even tell her half of what I wanted to. We could do anxiety another show too. That tends to make people think that they're arrogant, that they feel they're more important. And I'm going, no. Arrogance is the feeling that you are better than another human being.
Yeah.
Pride is being aware of what you've accomplished to get where you are and knowing who you are. That is a huge difference.
Yeah.
I have pride in what I've accomplished, and I have pride of what I know about and discovered about myself. And I know for me, this 20 to 30 minutes of my time in this bathtub salt, I'm an Epsom salt girl, and candles makes me come out and be present to the world. I guarantee all you parents who are running around like chickens with your head cut off, trying to make sure your kid is the best in every sport and has every electronic and everything, they pray and wish for you to be present with them in their lives.
So just, and we've got about 3 minutes, and the question I'm going to ask, we don't necessarily have to answer today. What do you think about while you're in that tub?
Nothing. I usually pray.
That's hard to do, right?
Well, I usually pray. That's my thing.
Yeah.
I pray or I visualize.
Yeah.
That's my prayer time, so to speak. But meditation to me is prayer. That's a whole other show we could do again.
Yeah.
Meditation to me is prayer. And we should do a show on prayer, because and you'd be a good one to do that with me, because people have a misconception, I believe, of what prayer is supposed to be. And you know what? We're going to do that in the next couple of weeks.
Sure.
We're going to have a conversation about prayer and what prayer is. There's all kinds of rules apparently involved in it.
Yep.
So I didn't cover everything I wanted to on anxiety today. It is a topic that we could probably go a whole month.
Yeah.
For. And
it's such a prevalent, I guess, it's everywhere. You see it, and especially in the school systems and with young people and hey, when I was a kid, I was hyper. Go stand in the corner. Now it's, here's drugs. I knew
a mom once. There was an older doctor. And I know a mom once who had a kid who was truly a hellion. This is mean, but I used to say they should be on a birth control poster child for like high schools, because this kid was a hellion, but they were spoiled brat is what they were.
Oh, yeah.
And they thought the whole world revolved around them because, they were told that it did.
That did.
And she took them when they got to be 12. That's a great age anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the doctor for medication. And this is an older doctor, probably still practicing in his late 70s, older doctor. And he said, I'm not giving him medicine. I'm giving him a freaking bike and a spanking. Go burn off the energy.
That's it, right?
So yeah, that's just funny because there is a hyperactivity, but it has become the common word. And that's where I think we need to decipher what is the difference between anxiety, which is a panic attack, which is a fight or flight triggering, and feeling anxious.
It is.
A true anxiety attack means that there is something unconsciously in you that says, my life is in danger. If this situation should occur, my life is in danger, and it will trigger that fight or flight response to make that decision-making process.
Yeah.
And being unaware of that is part of the problem. So again, that self-time, the me time, that gives you a chance to let all those things come up, all those truths come up, and see, what is causing this. So we'll do another show on anxiety because I didn't cover everything I wanted to cover.
Yep. Where can they catch you today in Lake Geneva?
The space in Lake Geneva, it is, you're going to funny because I don't even have the address with me.
Just look up the space. Everybody can Google that. Of course, folks, you've been listening to Lisa's Changing Perceptions. Check her out at lisaschangingperceptions.com. Stick around now for Fellowship of Faith's Worship Hour. Next week, it's going to be a very, very heavy Sunday. So we're going to start with you here at 9 o'clock.
You just said happy Sunday, and we're starting with you.
Yep, 9
nice,
o'clock.
Ken.
9 o'clock. Then we'll go into the Fellowship of Faith's Worship Hour, and then Lana's Metaphysical Meanderings are going to come on at 11:30 on Sunday. She's changing days, so she'll be in studio and live at 11:30 on Sunday mornings.
Sundays are getting busy.
Getting busy. Lisa, thanks for everything you do. Thanks for this great information on anxiety, folks. Reach out to her, 262-5730 or 7055. Let me read that again, 262-573-7055. For all of us here at 216 Net, thanks for getting caught in the net. We'll
Have
see
a great weekend. See you in a little while.